right, throw out the first pitch at the Orioles game tonight and hopefully don't 50 cent myself into history. I'm going to be doing a Q&A after the 9:30 tonight, so I'm going to rush back. Hopefully the game doesn't go into extra innings, because then I'll be really mad if I have to leave. And I'll be back here around 11, so tell your friends. Alex, you coming back?
Oh, hell yeah, I already got my ticket.
Yeah, there you go, see that? We have a Robert Longstreet fan in the house. He plays Uncle Jim. You'll never forget him. Good luck in your dreams tonight. If anyone has a question about the motion picture, comment.
And yep. Autobiographical in it?
Well, why don't my parents stand up and see if you recognize them from the sing? So the quick way to describe this is I've been trying to make this. I went to Linganore in Frederick County in 1992. I graduated, and I had the title in my head, Ping Pong Summer, and I wanted to make a movie. And for 20 years, it's always been different. I rewrite it, and then I just decided to insert my own life and make it kind of a love letter to my upbringing and the movies I loved at the time. Now I'll watch any kind of movie, but at the time I was just going to the video store and renting Errol's and renting like No Retreat, No Surrender and things like that. So for me, the goal of this was to have a sincere appreciation, not ironic, looking back on the 80s. It was trying to be very earnest and genuine. Yeah, but so it's not, so a lot of elements are not autobiographical, but it is deeply personal. And John Hanna actually is wearing my dad's retired Maryland State Trooper uniform in the first scene. So a lot of things like that. Someone will help me out by saying they too smelled the cassette when they opened it. Usually I was really nervous about that, and then Marty Bass, I was on the other day with Marty, and he looked at me like I was a cuckoo, and I promised him that almost every screening someone comes up to me and says, I forgot I used to do that. So that makes me feel better. Deeply personal, not autobiographical.
Yep. Where did you get some of the other vintage clothing that was in the movie?
That was the costume designer, Stephanie Lewis. She worked on a little movie called Beasts of the Southern Wild that did kind of okay for itself. Yeah, so we shared a good bit of the crew. One of our producers, Michael Gottwald, the last movie I made, Septien, we didn't have a makeup artist or a costume designer. It was sort of really stripped down. So at that point, we needed one, and Stephanie came in and was just great. She did a lot of thrifting. I had given her, I went through the script, and for all the department heads, like the water polo ring toss game, there were a lot of things that were important to me that I wanted to be in there. So the department heads had a guiding, but I didn't want to just micromanage, and ultimately it was saying you follow your heart. But with that Nike pop top, the blue thing, that was something that I had, and it was really important for me to get it in the movie. But I didn't even know if we get Nike clearance. And luckily, when you're making a low-budget movie, sometimes these things are tricky. And she got clearance from Nike. She had a friend there. So at that point, it wasn't like, to me, that's not product placement. It's just sort of legitimizing the world and making it feel more honest. So the costume designer ran with it, and yeah, the Teddy's shorts are, I can't take credit for those, the Arthur Ashe style.
Was that really Casey Kasem's voice?
It was, yeah. Even 2 years ago, I think we've all probably heard what's been going on. It's a weird, bad, unfortunate serendipity, but that Casey's in the news. But yeah, so we shot this in 2012 in the fall. We wrapped like a day before Sandy hit in Ocean City. And we were going to try to write one that was kind of more in keeping, like a sort of weird metaphor for the movie's arc, like a kind of plot story within. And even Casey's manager at the time was like, Casey doesn't sound like he used to, if that does anything for you. So we actually had the two producers went to the archives in Sherman Oaks, and I said from April to August, maybe September of 1985, listen to all of the long distance dedications and pull some for me to choose. So I was like, we're adults and we're doing this. This is our job right now. Yeah, so there were a few, but that was totally real. Maybe we did a little truncating to just make it move quicker because you're in the car for a long time. But I just felt like that was a really iconic memory from my childhood, and it's a sort of backwards, subversive way to establish family dynamic at the same time. But that's real. That is not made up. That story. Yeah.
That's a real story.
That's a real story. I hope they're okay, the brothers.
So, being
Yeah, the only time I've sat through it is at the Maryland Film Festival a few weeks back. Ted Dietz is here, and that was the one where anytime I'm confident in life, that's when things go wrong. But I felt like this has to go well, the screening at the Brown Center. So even at our world premiere at Sundance, I didn't sit through it. I would kind of peek in, and you could sort of, there are barometers, the parts where if the crowd is acting awake and alive, then they're engaged. Yeah, it's been really weird. Rotterdam playing to 850 people in a sold-out, really nice old theater, a bunch of Dutch people. At that point, I was just like, how's this gonna go? And it played well, but I will say, like, the Rehoboth joke has only landed. And then the other, what was the other reference? Even the telescope photo guy, which is our sort of nod to the accent. None of the actors, you can't train it. Leah Thompson had my mom call her on the phone and do the lines, and she was like, I don't know what was coming out, so I don't know how to, I'm not gonna learn that in a week. But yeah, so there were specific things that were, the Hammerjacks t-shirt cut to, and at the Maryland Film Festival screening, applause, just sort of uncontrollable, people just started clapping. I was sitting next to David Lowery, the filmmaker who made Ain't the Body Saints, and he looked at me like, what is going on? Like there's some humongous inside joke that he didn't know. So luckily, the fact that we even got into Sundance, got distribution, played San Francisco, Oregon, Copenhagen, it's played well, but it's been playing particularly well here. And that's what we hope for, is a movie that can work on both levels. It's not a foreign film for Marylanders, but yeah.
How did you get so many A-list actors?
We paid them $20 million each. They showed up, very eager to work. Susan Sarandon was the first piece of the puzzle, and that it wasn't to say that when she agreed to do it, that we had our money in the bank the next day, but she brought a legitimacy that enabled us to go to the other actors, and I think then they took it seriously. But Susan initially, I reached out. I had written the part of the mentor as an older male, because they always are in movies. I thought of Werner Herzog, I don't know if you know him, but that would be like the bleakest mentor. Like, why are you even picking up the pattern? But then he got the part in that Tom Cruise movie, and I was like, okay, joke's over. And then we thought, let's get a female and see what happens. And then, I don't know if anyone knows here that Susan Sarandon is the co-owner of a ping pong franchise. She's Spin, yes. So when you think of who's won an Oscar, who's one of the most iconic actors of their generation of cinema history, and co-owns a ping pong club, came back to Susan Sarandon. But I asked Jay Duplass, who's a friend who had directed her in a movie called Jeff Who Lives at Home, and I asked him, was she nice to work with, because we're working with kid actors, local talent who never acted before, and I did not want to have that kind of hierarchy on set, so I wanted to make sure that big actors that were coming in were on the level and playing it cool. And she did. She was great, and Jay vouched for her. He sent her the script with a personal recommendation, and then we met. And for anyone who's seen Septien, think of that your calling card for an Oscar-winning actor is them going home to watch Septien. And it worked well. She liked it. And then you think, okay, maybe we're on the same level of sense of humor and stuff like that. But it really started with Susan, and she admitted into the shoot, was like that if I hadn't gotten the recommendation from Jay Duplass, it would have just been in the stack that she gets every day, I'm sure. Yep.
The fact that you have John Hanoff with his actual accent.
Well, it's not. He's Scottish, and he's playing.
Scottish wasn't, that's why. It sounds like a Scottish accent to me.
He was trying to do Galway. He's from Galway. He did a little riff, I think it was coming out. Another thing is, he'd been in the country, so if you hear my dad talk, it's sort of not a sharp Irish accent. But he would come in, I think he did well, and also it's like an 80s movie, I wasn't gonna cut, that was terrible, John, get your brogue right. But yeah, so he actually did sort of put on a little bit of an Irish spin to it, and I'm sure there was a little bit of residue. He's a great actor, so I find it convincing as an Irish accent. And he was great. He's a pro. He showed up, and that day when he's sitting on the bench for the showdown, it's like, think about how many movies this guy has been in, how long he's been acting, and he was just like, yeah, shoot the 8-year-olds, get their coverage done, I'll just hang out here and be fine. He never complained. None of them did, none of the actors. So it was a really good crew to be, and then when you're in Ocean City in September and the weather's great, and it's just a sort of weird, lovely town, everyone was, I think, really happy to be there. You'll do a few more? Yep. You, ma'am.
Were you aware that David Sedaris wrote about Amy Sedaris being the queen of emollients when they were kids? She actually had tanning advice.
She told me, which is, this is the funniest thing ever, if you imagine the Sedarises like being miniature, who they are now, in the back of the station wagon going to the beach, the contest they would have, they would go for, like our family, just 1 week or maybe 10 days, and they would have a tanorexia contest to see who could lose the most weight and get the tannest at the same time in 7 days. So I knew a little bit about it, but and I read a lot of his stuff. And
Is that a real buffet?
Whose here has been to Paul Revere's Smorgasbord? Oh yeah. So will you guys answer this question? Is that a real buffet? Oh yeah. The only thing that was different is Harmony Korine, the director who made Spring Breakers last year, I texted him the day before we started shooting. That was the first shot of the movie, a stripped down crew because we didn't have sound. And I said, we're doing this minute-long Dolly buffet shot, like Bellatar reference. And he was like, you gotta have Jell-O in there, man. Put Jell-O. So actually the Jell-O that's at the end, if it wasn't for Harmony, it would have just been more clams or something. And we thought it was a fitting ending to that. So that was the only manipulation we did. And that was the crew meal, and man, I love it. And unironically, I love Paul Revere's Smorgasbord, so I was like, we cannot do this for our crew lunch, or I'll be asleep after 4 hours. We'll go here and then there, and maybe we'll wrap up.
With the mean redheaded kid that was in it, I kept in my mind thinking of Francis from Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Was that all an inspiration?
You know, for me, it was really, I keep saying the name No Retreat, No Surrender. If you guys go to YouTube, the whole movie's online, and you could just pick a moment. And my wife, Holly Herrick, who's a co-producer and is here, she had never seen it, and she watched it after the fact and was kind of like, did you just completely remake this movie like Husband and Chance? Like, this is the exact same movie. So I feel like it was, I'm sure Francis crept in somehow, but I didn't show them any movies. I was worried about, Andy's a real actor, Andy Riddle. He's a comedic actor, but he's a real actor. But I just thought this style of acting is a little bit different. So to show them that, I think, especially for Teddy, the Teddy Fry character, I think it would have really freaked him out and kind of thrown him off, derailed him. So we didn't show them any movies. I think all of them had seen like Back to the Future and The Karate Kid, but as far as the deeper cuts, they were not aware of.
So do you have a sister, and did she dress like that?
I have 3 sisters, but when you're making a low-budget movie, that quickly becomes 1 sister. It's hard enough to shoot all that car stuff. It's like every time I'm like, how do we write a scene not in a car anymore, ever? So it's a combination of 3, but everyone who knows my family thinks it's more Colleen, the one who was definitely, I was listening to my rap and she was listening to her Smiths and Cure and making fun of me. So it's definitely a tribute, I think, to the 1 out of the 3 more than any others. Does this guy have a question?
Yeah. Just to show there's some reality to the movie, I'd like you to recognize Dr. Miller from Mount Airy, who's here.
Is he?
Yes, he is.
So at the beginning when she says, Dr. Miller says, don't sue us, okay? Because Dr. Miller says, if you keep that cream spread on your face, this is the doctor in Mount Airy. Whoa, you guys are here for history. Thank you. Did you have a mustache?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't remember. Yeah, it's the mustache.
Did you say that?
No.
I didn't think so.
The story was that Andrew Krukoff, who's from Crofton, is one of our executive producers. That didn't happen to me. That happened to him. So I smelled the cassette tape, but I did not microwave a hard-boiled egg. He did that for real when he was a teen, and it exploded in his face, and he had to go to the doctor and wear aloe gel to a swim class, and he got made fun of. But I thought that was a great way to open the movie because you're establishing the 80s as well as the character, and it's just kind of funny to see an egg blow up in someone's face. It's great to see you, sir. Thank you for coming. Tell all of your customers. Let's just do one more. Yeah.
Okay. I want to know what happens to Lyle when he grows up.
Lyle?
Yeah.
I do too. No, I don't. I'm sure he's going to coast into the future with his parents' bank account,
Yeah.
and maybe he'll be a nice guy. I don't think it'll go too wrong for him, but no, he's probably going to just stay a little bit cocky. Yeah. Glad that actor's not here. We could all take him right now. But so the deal is, we just opened yesterday. We are available at home on your cable and iTunes and all that, but I think for me, watching movies in a theater is really exciting, and it's super important. It's a reflection, the way the indie film world works. They don't show the video-on-demand numbers, so we could be doing really great this weekend, but on Monday morning, all that the world sees is what happens here in the 17 screens that we're on in the country. So if you enjoyed it, please tell friends to come back soon and often, like Alex, just come 4 times a day. It just keeps getting better and better. But no, I really appreciate your support, and I do hope that you spread the word, and let's put Maryland on the filmmaking map. And now let me go eat trash before the first day. Thank you guys so much.